we are going to discuss it because we were all curious about it. We've been saying on this show that we think it has the potential to be the best Marvel movie as far as quality this year. And so far, I think we're right. One out of 2 out of 3, and it's definitely the best out of the 2 that have come out thus far. And I am assuming, because I've seen both your social posts and everything too, and Winston text last night into the group, that you guys are digging as much as I am, and I think Coy has pretty much just said it because he saw it twice already. Winston, let's start with you, man. What were your overall thoughts on the movie, and what were your expectations kind of going in?
Yeah, I mean, I have said this for a while now that this was the one that I was the most excited about amongst the 3, and I even said that at this point it went Thunderbolts, Superman, Fantastic Four, and so far it's lived up to my expectations. There was just thematically a lot of talk about mental health stuff, which I thought was just a really powerful way to go, considering where the world is right now. The acting was completely just where you would want something like that. And honestly, the vibes that the movie gave me, it gave me the same feelings that I got watching a bunch of a-holes that have no reason to be together come together, like Guardians. It really felt like I was transported back to Guardians, but like doing its own thing. Like, let me make it very clear, this is not a carbon copy of that at all, but a similar vibe of people that have no business together figuring it out. And I really, really enjoyed the ride that they took us on.
Yeah, I agree with that, Coy. I think that the difference, obviously, as Winston was saying, with the point he made about why it's similar to Guardians is that it's the cast of characters that shouldn't be together, but the tone is significantly different.
Yes.
I actually really, that's what I liked about it. I liked how it was more in tone, the tone with, like, I think Captain America, Winter Soldier, than it was anything else, because like there were some moments, like everybody has comedic moments in a way, but it wasn't like the Guardians of the 2 problem I had where everybody had a joke. It was more so like, no, it was real people in certain scenarios that could be funny no matter what it was. So what did you think of the overall tone? What were your thoughts? I haven't really talked to you yet about it.
For me, it definitely felt, and I know people use Winter Soldier as the bar for good reason, because I think it's one of the best MCU. I think it's one of the best comic movies ever made. But this, to me, finally felt like they found that sweet spot where I think that comic book movies are best when they have something to say and when they have something that is kind of introspective. Like when you look inward, that's what I like these stories for, is like your morals and your ethics and who you are. And I think Iron Man is a great example of like, oh, he's at a crossroads and he's inverting his life, and that's what Iron Man represents. And Winter Soldier is similar, where it's a man who has dedicated himself to a country and he's not trusting what that country's doing. And to me, this tone is much in that vein of like a looking inward and trying to figure out a big life change and sort your stuff out. But with some of the Guardians, disjointed, disparate parts, elements of a team. So the reason this is in my upper echelon of Marvel is it's hitting the beats that I love that Marvel does, but in all new ways. And I think even its use of Sentry and its ability to navigate that very strong tone never hinders the action or the comedy or the drama, but it adds to it. Like the heart of this film is so strong.
It's super strong. I think that, and as Winston mentioned beforehand too, I think that tackling mental health, tackling these things, and it was, again, not preachy, but because it was relevant to what was going on in general and the things. And I said that there's an aspect of it. Again, we're not doing spoilers today. We'll have a spoiler discussion. I'll probably have a spoiler discussion with Roka as well. But I think that, again, not giving spoilers, and I said that there's a portion of this movie that actually reminds me of Inception in a little bit. And and it is, and I think it's the way that it is handled, the way that they play it. I also think that Lewis Pullman was really, really good as Bob, for what he did in general with this role. And I think that you have to stand out, and you also have to make this work. Because is it pretty much clear? Do most people know the role that he's playing in this?
Yeah, I mean, it was announced that both Bob, or Robert being, the alter name of the character, but yes, that was the big thing, because remember, Stephen Yeun was playing this character previously, and it was very clear that he was going to be Sentry, and people had this whole thing about it, and blah blah blah.
And that's what because I was supposed to actually speak to him last week, and it just didn't work out. Now it's probably going to happen next week, we think. But I wonder how that, like, what that pressure is like, right? Stephen Yeun is going to be in this movie because he had worked previously with the director on Beef. You know, they had that relationship. He's coming in to do it, and then for whatever reason, whether it's fan stuff or strikes or whatever it was, he leaves the project. And like, is there a hesitation there for him to take it in the first place? And then what does he bring into that role? I'm so curious to talk to him about it, because I think he really elevated it. And I think this is kind of he's been great in everything he's been in, but I think this is he had the most to do in this than he has previously, Coy. All right, let's talk about Stitch Fix. I know shopping's hard. I know it is. I found a much better way to do it, though. Stitch Fix, online personal styling, and makes it so easy. I'm not a shopping person. Doesn't matter. Even if I can figure out my size, stores never seem to really have what I need in stock. Then I'm not a crowds person. I'm not a lines person. I don't have the time for it. Stitch Fix, it gets you a stylist who understands your style, understands the size, gets the budget. They do all the shopping for you. So I just give my stylist the one that I have right now. I give them the size, I give them the style, I give the budget preferences. I order boxes when I want, how I want, no subscription required. And he just sends me for pieces, pluses, outfit recommendations, styling tips. It's awesome. I keep what works and then I send back the rest. It's very easy. There's no stores, there's no crowds, there's no stress, just personalized looks that you're going to love. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. And it looks like you know what you're doing, too. If you're walking around, you go, hey, look at you. You're in style. I said, I know, right? And then I give Stitch Fix some props. Anyway, make style easy. Get started today at stitchfix.com/KHS. One more time, stitchfix.com/KHS.
Yeah, I think that the role is a very strong showcase of his versatility. I think it's also like so much of exposed heart. Like there has to be such a vulnerability to that role. There has to be so much emotion on the surface. And he also can't get annoying because there's such an anchor to it. Shameless name drop. I talked to him at the premiere and I thanked him for what he brought to a character that I don't actually enjoy all the time in the comic books. I think at times the character is really thinly written. I think it's at times very surface level and used in a way that's just like a big gun. And I told him as much at the premiere, and we had a decently long conversation about the comics and what he wanted to bring and why it was important for him as a comic fan. Like he nerded out about like being in the MCU. Like he was so proud of being part of Marvel and being something representing mental health. And I think that's really beautiful to have that conversation in a movie like this. And it was a really cool talk to see that he's such a geek that cared so much about people. He's like, no, you're the person that I needed to make sure liked this, like you comic fans. And he kept mentioning that like comic fans are the hardest to get like on the side of like, we did it. But yeah, he was just so lovely. And it was really nice to see that he was as kind and sweet as you'd want someone to be that's in this position of movie stardom. Great dude.
I'm looking forward to talking to him. I didn't realize he didn't start, considering, you know, who his dad is. He didn't start acting until he was like, it's like 2017 or something, which is crazy. Like I thought, you know, because obviously you got your pops, who was the president of Independence Day, man.
Yeah, he was at the premiere too, his dad. And like when he like walked by, I was like, Mr. President. Like I felt like
right. Who does it? The question I'm going to ask him, I'm sure he's been already asked a million times over, is have you already tried to get him into the MCU?
Dude, like the fact that I asked Wyatt Russell about his dad and his relationship within the MCU, because I've always wondered, like, because Kurt Russell plays the dad of the universe, like Ego is such a dad role. So I'm like, I hate when kids have to talk about their parents ever, but I was like, I'm going to talk to Wyatt Russell. I got to ask. And it was really funny that I was like, wait a second. Yeah. Is anyone trying to get Bill also?
That's what I'm going to say. That's my into that. I'm going to say, you know, Wyatt and Kurt have both been in the MCU. Are we getting, you know, Lewis and Bill?
Maybe we still are, but I would not be surprised if like he was originally in contention to replace William Hurt and play the president again. And then they were like, Harrison Ford also wants to do it, and they'd be like, find something else for you, Bill.
But he also probably would be like, I don't want to play the president again. He did that. Been there, done that. But either way, I think it leads in to what the two scenes. There's a great first post-credit scene that adds to the movie itself, but the second one is the one, and it's funny because I said we're talking about off air, but when I saw it, I looked at the scene and I go, that definitely was not filmed by the same director. That to me feels in the same way that when in Ant-Man 2, was it Ant-Man 2 or Ant-Man 1? I think it was Ant-Man 1. Ant-Man 1. The end of Ant-Man 1, when both Falcon and Cap have Bucky and they're have him chained up to that boiler or whatever the hell it is, and they're talking to him. I was like, that scene does not look like it's part of Ant-Man. That's from another movie, and it was indeed from Civil War. This is the same thing, and the director confirmed as much. He said it might be from another movie that's filming soon.
Is my I don't know if I'm going very actually right now, but I thought the Ant-Man one was the one where he's in the van. They like kidnap him, and then they open up the door, and they're just like, "Oh, Mr. Captain, sir." I thought that was that post credit. Am I losing?
That's Civil War.
I know that is showing Civil War, but I thought that post credit is at the end of Ant-Man.
That's not a post credit scene.
Nope. Maybe I'm losing my mind. I would have sworn to God that was one of the post credit scenes. But maybe
if this was a year ago, I would probably be. I wouldn't be as feet.
He had just watched them.
I just no, I know. That's why I was like, I'm very close to just shutting the F up. But like,
yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was that one. But I am. Someone said you're losing your mind, Winston. He's losing his mind. Now I'm reaping all the benefits. But as far as performances go, I thought their chemistry, which is the most important thing about this, the chemistry is key. And I've said this throughout the week. I'm sure you guys are going to agree that I think that, Winston, you remember how upset both of us were when we saw the second Doctor Strange movie, and Kevin Feige goes, "No, you don't need to see WandaVision. You'll be all right." You're like, what are you talking about? I hope he doesn't tell anybody, you don't need to see Black Widow. Of course you have to see Black Widow.
You 1,000% have to see Black Widow.
Black Widow, and I think like Falcon and Winter Soldier, if you want to be as connected to Walker, you do. But Yelena is the main character. And like people with Hawkeye, not as much. I don't think you, because she's in Hawkeye.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
she's in Hawkeye. Oh, Yelena. Yeah. No,
you don't have.
You sort of do, because that's how we. Because if I remember, well, wait a minute.
She talks to Valentina at the end
of Black Widow. Yeah. Okay. Yep, you're right.
Yep.
So yeah, Black Widow's the main thing you need. I think secondary would be Falcon Winter Soldier, and I love that they're bringing in elements of the shows into the movies that finally feel important now.
Yeah, someone said she has a big role in Hawkeye. She does, but it's not relevant to Thunderbolts. The role, really, like, I think you will not be lost if you don't see, like, you won't necessarily be lost if you don't see Black Widow, but you won't have the same emotional attachment like with her and David Harbour, with a lot of this stuff that's happening. I mean, the Taskmaster stuff, like a lot of this stuff.
Well, that's the thing. If you haven't seen Black Widow, you might be like, who is this character? Because again, she's shown up, I guess, twice now, here and then Hawkeye, and Red Guardian, to my knowledge, only showed up in Black Widow. So you wouldn't even know who that person is if you haven't seen it. So yes,
and it's
very much
know him. It's important, especially from his whole angle of what he's doing, because there's an ongoing bit, and he's brilliant in the role. By the way, he's like, because that role with somebody else could have been a Randy Quaid, like Randy Quaid moment.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like,
speaking of Independence Day,
like I do like Independence Day. I think Randy Quaid is so over the top in that movie, and he's so out of place in a lot of things. He's in a different movie at times, and that easily could have been the role that happened in this. But because David Harbour is so wonderful in it, and because it plays like, oh, I understand him because of what he did in Black Widow and the stuff that he went through in Black Widow, and the moments and the relationship he's got with them and the way it develops, and there's layers to these people, which is why I cared. Like, if there's a lot of times there's no layers and there's no freaking singing planets, which I have to take a shot at that stupid singing planet every time I can.
My favorite marketing for this has been David Harbour went to Disney and they just
I saw that. I saw
the Red Guardian thing.
Yep.
No, what happened?
So they always have a new character come out with the movie release, or they've been doing it lately, and Red Guardian's the one for Thunderbolts. So you see like David Harbour walking through Disney, and he sees like Cap, he sees Captain Marvel, and he's like clearly looking for someone, and then he spots Red Guardian, and the dude looks amazing, and he just goes, ah! And they like scream and hug each other. Even that joke wouldn't work with a lesser act. Like, even of marketing, like, it's such a perfect tone, and it's so grounded in heart.
Yeah. It's true. And what did you think about him, Winston?
I thought David Harbour stole the show. I think that it is very clearly Florence is the lead of this movie, and and she is the heart and the soul of the movie. But he 1,000% steals the show in all of the right ways. There's never a point where I'm like, you were annoying or you were pulling
right.
focus. If
Right.
anything, I'll call it psychosis for the character is the perfect amount of what you need in that moment. You've talked about this a lot. There is a delicate balance when you're trying to tell a serious movie that has humor in it. And he, like you said, he never goes over the line. And it makes some big payoffs during the movie and the post-credit scenes that much more fun because of how well he does it.
Right. And I think that it's because of exactly what you said. They knew, the director had a great sense of the tone and where to hit those moments and not feel out of place. And like, no one's cracking jokes in the middle of like a big intense fight where it's like, if someone's in trouble, okay, they're in trouble. Right. And there's some of those moments. You're going to say, Coy?
Yeah, the director was, I'd never heard of anything to this scale of movie. The director was so sure of the vision of the movie. The composers had been hired in pre-production, and they were actually able to do rough suites and scoring for the actors to hear going into production. So like, this movie was so buttoned up. It's the opposite of studio interference, which is something I think we've been feeling from some of these movies, that the director's vision is the movie we got, to the point that they were able to start scoring it before they were shooting, which is unheard of, which is also why like the score feels so like emotionally connected to these characters, and they got to build, to the character. And so to me, that's doesn't happen with a movie like this. It's also the composing team behind Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is like so much heart and emotion. But yeah, they literally got to be alongside the director through the process. And that's why I think the movie feels so complete, because it was.
The score was brilliant. The score was really, really good. And I like that it's, and again, no spoilers, I like that it's really not a traditional Marvel ending, which to me is like this, because I was, again, the person I was with was like, it was kind of, seemed like it wasn't really a big, huge Marvel ending. I said, I liked that. And I thought it was in sync with what the whole movie was.
You also, just from the standpoint of, if you know who these people are and you know what they're going up against, that's pretty much the only way that could go. Like, let's keep it a buck, and I'll leave it at that, because you'll get it once you get in there. But my whole thought process, genuinely, every time I saw the trailers and whatnot, I was like, I'm really curious how they're going to figure this out.
Yeah,
because that is not who I would call to solve this problem.
Yeah, it's true. And the way that it's set up, and I think is done very, very well. And what they do also is that they don't, and I think that Marvel has had this problem, is trying to bombard you with cameos and Easter eggs and all these different things. And what they do well in this is that they fit the MCU in as a storyline. There's certain things like that just pop up in New York, and you're like, oh, okay, that's how that's connected, is pretty great. But then you also have Bucky, who kind of gives you that feel in general. And I thought for people who are like, think this is going to be a Bucky movie, it isn't. He's there. He's in a significant part of the movie, and he's a role, but he's not. It's not Bucky Barnes's Thunderbolts. This is Yelena's movie, and I think Florence Pugh is absolutely a movie star. I mean, she from the second she enters, she's got a major presence with her, and what she's got to do is, as the leader and as the lead actor, she's got to be able to connect with each person when she's in a scene with it. You care every single time. Okay, well, it's not like, oh, I wish she was back in the scene with that person. I mean, no matter who she's talking to, if she's going back and forth with Walker, who Wyatt Russell, probably one of the best performances he's done in a while. And I say that as a compliment. He's done great stuff, but this is one I think that this is the best we've seen Walker. And then with her, and obviously David Harbour, but her and Bill Pullman, her and Lewis Pullman are so great together. And if you don't have that relationship work, you don't really feel for a lot of what they're trying to accomplish. Corey, do you agree with that?
I think this is the best example of the power of the casting director knowing her cast for the long game. Sarah Haley Finn, what she's been able to build. You got to think, like, you're casting for 10 years or more out, and you're going to be casting for relationships that don't yet exist. These are characters from, a Disney Plus show, from other movies, from all these things combining. And if you look at it, adding Lewis Pullman, every single one of these relationships works. Like, I love the relationship you're describing between, you know, Yelena and Bob, but like, that's the only real new addition, because you've got to hope that you've got the Yelena and David Harbour relationship strong enough that it holds for this new storyline. You've got to hope that when you bring in these new characters, it adds to the ingredients. And Lewis Pullman went out for Spider-Man. Like, he was Peter Parker like 10 years ago. He was up for Tom Holland's role.
Wow.
And, you know, I found out on the red carpet, you know, that she had him in for that, and then basically remembered how much she loved his work, brought him in for this, and now we've got this incredible new soup.
We do. And I think that's it. I think he found out where he was supposed to be, right? What happened to Winston? Where'd he go? I don't know where he went. Left. Yeah, he absolutely found out where he's supposed to be, and it's because when you have actors around you that can also elevate what you're doing, it does nothing except make it exciting for everyone else involved.
And these characters don't work with lesser actors, and this movie doesn't work without these relationships.
Yeah. I think he's having internet issues. So I think that, what else do we really need to say about this? I mean, moving forward, I guess that's the other thing, Coy, is that the post-credit scene in general, we really, because you had that kind of piss poor Captain America thing that they tried to do to get you a little bit interested in it. But this one, obviously, this isn't even a post-credit. I think this is a scene from the movie. I
love that, and we're going to be very careful with spoilers. I love that so many, and I'm going to even phrase this slowly. I love that so many of the Phase 4 and 5 post-credit scenes felt like they were setting up something, and then we were like, but when? And this one felt confident.
Right.
This is one of the post-credit scenes that feels like Marvel is sure of what's happening. They know what's like, it feels right. And this is the most full I've felt after a Marvel movie in a long time. Some of the Marvel movies have felt like when you go get a burger and you're hungry in an hour. This feels like a meal. I feel like I'm satiated. I feel like I'm excited for what's to come. I feel very fulfilled.
Yeah, me too. And, you know, the other thing is, when we talk about the hype behind it, I think there's more and more like people actually interested to see it now. You know, like, I think that there was, and it's almost where, because Sinners had the same type of thing. People are like, okay, let's see how Sinners is going to be, and then everybody's hyping it up, and now everybody wants to see it, right?